Welcome to the Meetings Podcast, the meeting organizer's podcast source for what's new in the meetings and events industry. Meetings Podcast is a conversation with a variety of voices that looks at events, meetings, and media. Meetings Podcast is sponsored by IMEX America, America's worldwide exhibition for incentive travel, meetings, and events.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. This is Mike, and I wanted to thank our sponsors, IMEX America. I also wanted to say I kind of canceled out our 99 Designs affiliate program just because I had a long conversation with a graphic designer that I know who is really well respected, and he was telling me about his angle on how that works, on how all these people are doing free work. And you don't really see that in any other business where people will give you their work. A bunch of people will give you their work for free, and then you choose which one you want. Anyway, I just kind of thought, you're right, so I canceled that. I hope I didn't offend anybody by 99 Designs. You should still go use it, but I just thought I don't really want to promote them anymore. But anyway, let's get into the show. We have a great show today. We have Johanna Walsh. She's fantastic. She was on the show years ago, and she's around. She lives in the same town as me. Great Green Echo Events producer. Her and her partner, Debbie, do a great job, and let's just get right into it and get talking to Johanna. And thank you so much for tuning in, and I appreciate you. So I will see you after the interview. Okay, welcome back to the Meetings Podcast. This is Mike McAllen from Grass Shack Events and Media, and today we have Johanna Walsh. Hi, Johanna.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I am good, and I'm glad that my people could finally get with your people and get you back on the show, because it's been 9 years since you were on the podcast.
That's nuts. Technology has changed leaps and bounds since then, obviously. It has.
Yeah, and we were on the telephone.
Yeah.
Chatting on the last one, and I just listened to some of it, and it was really fun to hear. Okay. I mean, normally I don't like listening to the ones, but it was fun to hear all your all the green stuff you talked about. So let me read a quick bio of you so people will know who you are I know they're all been waiting for you to get back on the show. So most of the people know you. They've been waiting with bated breath. Johanna R. Walsh is the founder and CEO of Twirl Management, an eco planning firm based in Oakland and proud certified benefit corporation and green business, and a proud certified benefit corporation and green business. Johanna has traversed sustainability in the event landscape by planning green events, managing sustainably for large events, and creating sustainable event management systems for clients such as Bloomberg, Etsy, George P. Johnson, Freeman, Salesforce, Drury Design, and Dignity Health. She co-created the Green Venue Report, an annual international study looking at the sustainability practices of convention centers to create environmental baseline for the MICE industry. Johanna lives in Oakland and is either in Tahoe snowboarding or taking ballet classes in her spare time.
Yeah.
I didn't know you did ballet.
I do.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. It's very good exercise. I don't really enjoy yoga, so we joke that it's Vichy yoga because it's kind of the same thing. Mm-hmm. It's stretching and strength training in the same way.
That's so cool.
Music. That's
so cool. Actually, my wife took ballet for a while, and my daughter, they took it together. That was a thing they were doing for a while. Yeah. That was like when we did our podcast like years ago. So let's get into you first. Tell me your favorite quote.
This was an interesting question. It was like, I wanted to, we used to have those like Facebook quotes that we'd all have, but the one that has stuck with me the most is actually from a history teacher my sophomore year in high school. And she might have pulled it from somewhere else. She probably did, but I'm crediting to her. And she used to say that life is a process of becoming. And what she meant by that is that, you keep on changing and growing and learning and developing throughout your life. And as soon as you stop doing those things, you're no longer living your life. So it always had a profound effect on me.
That's great. That's really great. It is funny. I added this question because I have a few of my own. In my life, I looked back and thought, there's just this soccer coach told me, Mike, the more times you shoot, the more times you score. And, that was just something he said to me. And he goes, and that'll go in your whole life with everything you do. You need to shoot. Because I never shot at the goal. I would always try to pass it to somebody else. But anyway, that's always been in my head. His name was Peter McCoy. What was your teacher's name?
You know what? No, I don't at this point. I can see her face. I can see her in her huge personality and her wonderful aura that she had, but I can't remember her name right now.
And I remember Peter McCoy's name only because my mom caught him in our swimming pool because he was like a soccer coach. So he must have been a kid. I was a little kid. And I thought he was an adult, but he was like, him and his friend were in our backyard swimming in the swimming pool. So that's how I remember Peter McCoy. Yeah, the guy in the pool. So anyway, I wonder what he's doing now. It's funny. He's probably not that much older than me, which is funny. You look back at that. He must have been a teenager or something because he was like a tennis coach too or something. So it's funny. So let's jump into your career path and how you got into this business of eco event planning and where you are today from when we talked to you last. That's interesting too.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to go from then. You can go from whenever, but.
Yeah. Well, I started down this path as in a funny way. I was helping a friend out. We were looking at producing a martini festival in Martinez, which is the disputed birthplace of the martini.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Martini Martinez. Yeah. I mean, it's disputed. San Francisco will claim credit. It's not entirely a clear lineage of its founding, and it's not the same martini that we drink today.
Oh.
But my friend was living in Martinez, my fantastic friend, Bonnie Duque, and she had this wonderful big idea about doing a martini festival. And through research, just trying to figure out how we permit the whole thing and, public drinking festival, we ran into some challenges finding out that the chief of police was not going to permit any kind of alcohol-based festival. Partly, if you dug a little deeper, he had some family members with some drinking and driving issues. So it was like a personal thing for him that he was not going to permit events like this. So we were trying to figure out workarounds actually to support a don't drink and drive initiative without saying don't drink and drive all the time. So we kind of were like, how do we get people out of their cars? How do we get them on public transportation? How do we get them on the train, BART, shuttles around? And it kind of was this like green light, green light, aha moment that like this light bulb went off and was like, what if we did a green event? And what if we did a green festival that everything was local and everything was powered by alternative energy and all the products were local and the vodka and the gin were local and that would be the way to inspire people to get out of their cars and using BART and Amtrak and things like that to get there. So it was this total kind of side solution to this no drinking and driving problem. And that was almost 10 years ago. And at the time it was such a people weren't talking about it that much. It wasn't popular, or they were rolling their eyes at it. It was a trend at that point. And I remember sitting in plenty of meetings, trying to convince people to do green events or to look at it or to listen to me about green events. And a lot of eye rolls happened at the time. So it's been an amazing journey to see it develop over the last 10 years to a mainstay. Most companies in the meetings and events industry, from huge conglomerates that own massive trade shows to multinational companies to venues, all have sustainability on their website and are all addressing it in various ways. Or wanting to address it even better. And the biggest trade shows all have some kind of initiative, some kind of program, whether it be an environmentally based program or a community-based program. But realizing, I think that the understanding that the meetings and events industry has an impact it needs to be responsible for when it comes to the community and the earth has really changed and grown over the last decade, which has been really, really kind of exciting.
Yeah, and there was so much waste before.
Yeah.
I remember you were on top of all that when we started the GMIC here in San Francisco, and I remember you did everything.
I did a lot.
You did a lot. You did everything. And, there are all these other people on that first group of people. But I remember, man, you picked the ball and did everything for that.
You have to remember, I think it was about we were 2008, 7, 8, around when that started. And it was a nice, pretty recession happening, and there wasn't a lot of other things to do.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. I didn't even think about that, but you did. You did all that. I mean, that was great how much you did.
And I will say, though, that experience is probably one of the most valuable experiences of my career, because those colleagues, much like yourself and the other people that are still very involved in the organization, have become colleagues and friends that I can call on. That network of people has become invaluable, that in a way that I would not have met them on the job. I wouldn't have gotten the same kind of connections to them and the same kind of relationships with them. So I think that is one thing in my career that I'm most thankful for, is that experience, actually.
And Tom McCarter is one of your mentors.
Yes. Yeah. There's a lot of great work there.
Yeah. Okay. So what's been the biggest challenge that you've encountered in getting all this stuff across to people?
It's before it was just people trying to buy off on it and figure out if they wanted to do it or not. Now I think that there is still this gray area of what it means and what's kind of the next rung. People got rid of water bottles at conferences for the most part. People understand organic and local food and, make the choices about whether they want to pay for it. And I always kind of hear, well, what's next? What do I do next? And the answer is not really fun. The answer is reporting. The answer is collecting metrics. The answer is, getting deeper into the data. And nobody wants to do that, frankly.
No, but it's great if you can.
It's great if you can, if you can afford to hire a consultant that supports you in that realm, or you've got a system or a company that's really looking at that in that size. But that's kind of what's next. And I think people struggle with that in terms of kind of keeping moving forward and the momentum moving forward.
Do you guys do that? I'm assuming you do.
We don't.
Well, you have the people, the resources to get it done is the thing.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to be sitting there counting stuff, but but the people to do it. That's
exactly. And that's really partnership with your vendors. That's the best thing that anyone can do if they want to grain their event is really having conversations with your vendors and what to expect from them, not only in their show performance and what they need to do for the attendee experience, which is chief number one priority, but in their procurement, in their tracking, in their reporting back to you.
Very cool. Okay. And, what was the moment you knew you made the right decision in starting this company?
I was thinking about this question, and I feel like it's been a series of moments, not one big tipping point. But in my career, it's been that there's been kind of a cascade of opportunities that just work out at the right time, where all of a sudden you meet somebody, or all of a sudden the right client comes up, or you have the right conversation, and you realize that my work has been part of a cumulative effort, and not just. And sometimes you don't even realize. That's the thing. I had a conversation with somebody the other day about their program, and it was really wonderful to realize that I had actually developed myself into getting to that place in that conversation and to be in that situation. And so it just has been a series of things and not just one big aha. Mm-hmm. So that's been really great.
Very cool. All right. So can you take us, how does it working with you guys as an echo event planning firm, from if I was to call you and say, hey, Johanna, I need an echo event planning firm. How would it work? How would the system go?
Yeah, well, I have to admit, probably about 90% of our clientele calls us because we're great event planners. Mm-hmm. And don't call us because we're green, and don't call us because, that's a nice add-on. But they call us because we have a really great reputation at providing a wonderful events, creative event services. And the sustainability part is just who we are. It's kind of in our DNA. But basically, the process is that we actually have a 3-step process. Nice. Where you come in, we sit down, we try to pull as much information about goals and objectives, attendee profiles, and really try to understand what a client is trying to do with their event. And from there, we create a pretty in-depth event brief that helps us it helps outline almost like a guiding principle of what the event should be. And what that allows us to do is that with these kind of goals and objectives for the event, we can then help the client make any and all decisions that go back and benefit to those goals and achieve those goals and achieve those objectives. So it's kind of this nice working document that directs the process when we're doing end-to-end events for clients. Then from there, that we review that with a client and process that. They sign off on it or make changes, make updates, because we try to make that our guiding document. And from there, we start designing an event. We do all of we look at the perfect venue that fits those goals. The decor, the registration software, all of the things that an attendee will come into play with that will achieve those pre-outlined goals. We try to make those choices we go through this whole process, and then it's the actual event itself. And, everything from detailed staffing plans and show runs, run of shows and load-in schedules, all of that kind of very logistic heavy items to make the attending experience run as smoothly as possible is kind of that 3-phase. And how we do it sustainably or green is we basically look at an event of what goes in must come out, right? Any event planner understands that you have to clear that ballroom. Everything that you brought into an event has to then come out of an event. You have to remove it all. So what is the best way to ensure that what you bring in either is reused, recycled, donated, or put into a proper waste stream? And you can do that by talking with your venues, speaking with your local municipalities about what they'll take in the recycling bin, if they compost and how they compost, understanding the donation programs available to you in your show, as well as understanding the client's end use needs and to see if there's things that they can reuse and store for the year or for the quarter, depending on the frequency of their programs. So we just try to design items and procure items that fit into that process in order to have as little come out of the show that isn't reusable, recyclable, or donatable. But you have to have those things set up well in advance. Yeah. You can't just look at a pile of signage, vinyl signage, and be like, oh, we can totally donate that. Somebody will take that. They won't. Nobody wants your pile of signage unless you found somebody who actually does. But I think a lot of times people just flippantly say, oh, somebody will take that. That's a ton of really good carpet, or that, somebody will want that. Well, maybe, but the assumption that anyone will want it and that they'll go through the effort to pick it up and transport it and store it is, I think, a falsehood that happens a lot around donating after shows, where you can find great organizations that definitely want those items, but I think there's always a flippant oh, we can totally donate that right now. Somebody will take it, and it ends up just going into the trash when that happens.
Interesting. That's great to have a great process. It's good for your clients to have that in there to read, because sometimes people go into these events and don't have any plan at all. They just kind of, let's get it done. And
we've actually, since we incorporated it, it's kind of a new way we talk about how it's the same thing we've always done, but what we've found is it allows clients to relax. They're like, oh, there's a system. Like there's actually a 1, 2, 3 step. And I think they were like, oh, this is okay. I got it. I can see what happens next. Instead of, I think not all clients are mature and understand the event planning process and the huge amounts of money that go into it. Or, there's all these different things that go into an event. And people, I think, have a lot of misconceptions. So when we come at them with a, direct plan, they can calm down. And a calm client is a great client.
Yes, very much so. And I wanted to say, too, along the lines, besides you guys being a green eco event planning company, I just posted this on Facebook to say, I'm going to be interviewing Johanna. And one of my mom's friends, who is, I have to say, she's very well-to-do, and they do some huge events, that she said, I love working with Twirl, which was so funny. It's like one of my mom's, it's just total random small world thing, but it's kind of a really good, a really great testimonial, for what you guys do. So just wanted to throw that out there. I also wanted to throw one other thing out there. Well, I can do that later. I'll talk about that because it's not part of it. Okay, I'll talk about it. Yeah, I'm just going to say that you were talking about Martini and Martinez. I got to get this out of my head. Oakland was from the Mai Tai.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just because you're in Oakland, I'm in Oakland. We're in different. We actually could have got together and done this, but we are using the World Wide Web. But they actually Trader Vic's in Oakland started the Mai Tai. Interesting little thing. Sorry, I just thought you gave me one. I'm going to give you one back.
Yeah, I see a progressive history of alcohol tour happening.
That's a great idea.
Right? Somebody else drives.
Yes. So, do you want to give an easy way? I wanted to ask, what can somebody do, an event organizer who's new to this, what could they do just right away to make their event greener? Honestly,
the best way, easiest way to kind of look at your events is to look at how you run your business and how you run your office. Just that kind of day-to-day stuff gets you in really good shape to start looking at how you run your events and how you make your choices. And it's super low risk. You don't have to worry about a client getting disappointed or somebody else's budget. You can make those changes internally, from how you set up your waste at your office to, how often you commute on public transportation, and just kind of getting a sense of how those things feel for you. And thinking about when you do that, how they would feel for an attendee. And so that way you can start gauging experience and what you would need and want to be able to promote those practices at your event is through your own experience. Much how I think we understand how we kind of approach events anyway. Mm-hmm.
Very cool. What's the big, it's funny you said water bottles and things. What's the biggest wasteful thing you see now that people just makes you pull your hair out? Is there anything that still is come on, it's so easy. Why don't you not do that?
I would say it's shocking. I'm actually always shocked that the water bottle thing is still an issue.
Is it?
Still get into a breakout room and there'll be individual bottles set up at each seat. And I'm just kind of really? Are we still doing this? Didn't every attendee get a disposable or reusable water bottle? And aren't there bubblers up and down the street? And I just can't believe it. But the tchotchkes and the kind of unvalued products, RSA is happening this week, or was it last week? Is this week? And that's one of those shows, and a lot of shows are like this. It's a great show in a lot of levels, but the booths are there, and kind of a lot of the booths are set up in a way to get the most badge scans. And in order to do that, they give an incredible amount of stuff away. Thousands of T-shirts, thousands of, plastic lightsabers. It's really in this kind of way to attract people to the booths. And I'm always just imagining what does housekeeping find in the hotel rooms that, everything from these, weird stress balls. Remember we hung out at RSA and you saw all that stuff that was incredible amount of stuff. And so there's that. I think the next big trend that we're seeing that people can incorporate is around their menu selection. A big thing that a client did this fall was they took off beef from the lunch menus, just the lunch menus. No weird freak out. And I'm not a vegetarian or anything, but they switched it out for things like pork and chicken and lamb, and so delicious things to replace it with, but beef is a very water intensive agricultural product. So highest, it's thousands of gallons of water per pound of beef is used. And so by taking away beef from a menu, you're able to save a tremendous amount of water. And even though we're being blessed by the El Nino storms this right now, I think long-term conservation is still necessary to avoid, going through our reserves in the long run.
Right. So where do you see the future? How do you see it all evolving for you, for your company? Not necessarily for just green stuff, like for your company. Yeah, they go.
To be honest, we're actually in a really big transition right now. And looking at how we can both professionally, personally, and as a company make bigger impact. We had the wonderful opportunity to work on Dreamforce, Salesforce's big conference this last year. And we loved working at that scale. Like, we loved working at that intensity and that show size, and trying to find opportunities to kind of continue that scale and that reach professionally, I think is what's our goal. And that may not happen via Twirl, to be perfectly honest. And as I've been running Twirl for 9 years, and I think there's just some transitions and trying to figure out what that all means in the long run. But I think every small business owner kind of goes in and out of what's best for them personally, professionally, and with everything that they've put into a particular company is also a hard thing to kind of balance throughout. So, what'd
you guys do for Salesforce?
We managed the foundation zone and the entire Marriott property for the organization, and we oversaw all of the sustainability for the conference.
Oh, wow. Yeah. It's a massive conference.
It's insane. It's
insanely big. If someone's listening and they don't know what Dreamforce is like, you come out to San Francisco and they take over all of San Francisco. Everything.
Well, and the big difference to note is that it's not a trade show. It's actually a corporate event. So every nook and cranny is Salesforce, Dreamforce branded. So it's not like you walk into a trade show and you see a bunch of a room full of different color banners, circular banners, and different booths that all look like. No, it is the world's largest corporate event because it really is thoroughly looks and feels. Even the trade show floor is a Salesforce floor, even though there are exhibitors from hundreds of other companies.
Yeah. So. God, I've been working on that show for years. Like when they first started it, they did it at it's like an old Mason's Hall. It's on Van Ness. What's that place?
Oh, are you serious?
All the different floors?
Yeah.
That's where they had it. And it was like one of the very first ones. I remember working on that. And I was just
goodness.
Crazy. Yeah. And then it just exploded like giant.
They have a really amazing strategy team in-house, and their show management partner, I think, has really also helped them elevate kind of the show. They have really interesting diagrams to kind of see the trajectory of the growth. All the way to this year where they pulled in a cruise ship because they have sleeping rooms.
So crazy.
So nuts.
And I went to high school with Mark Benioff.
Did you really?
Yeah, and my parents are friends with his parents. They're friends.
Yeah.
Which is funny. He's older than me, so we didn't really.
Yeah,
I wish I had hung out with him now, looking back on it, but.
Yeah, right. I've done. We worked for a wonderful event designer. We were there. We were his out of house production team, and I had the benefit of working on Mr. Benioff's 50th birthday party.
Oh wow!
As well as we did the kind of Salesforce private party in 2014. So they, extremely. You can kind of we worked mostly with like the security team, and they were all very kind and professional, and you can tell that there's a kind man behind all that. You know, your staff doesn't end up kind if you're not kind. So
yeah, he does a lot of great stuff.
Yes.
Okay, so what else do we want to ask? We have other things to ask you.
Yeah, I have some notes. Let's see.
I wanted to say, so are you struggling with anything right now?
I think the struggle is that kind of in that transition of from just kind of figuring out, both my desire for impact and understanding both worth, from like a professional worth, the twirl's worth, in terms of what our clients can and will pay, and how to balance that with the kind of company we want to be. I think those are the kinds of things I struggle with, and how to get those things successfully. I really want to expand my impact. I think that's the biggest thing right now.
Very cool. All right, so I want to ask a couple questions so people can find out about you, because you are a very talented person, and as a business owner too, but just as a person, you've done all kinds of fun stuff. But I wanted to I like to try and grab stuff that successful people do that other people could hear about to go, oh, I should do that also. Not that you will have some special potion that you make to drink, but you never know, something might come along. So do you have any, take us through like a typical day? Do you have any like morning rituals, or besides ballet, probably every morning, like food, exercise? Is there something, that you like to read on the web every day? Do you go in and read something every day? What's your day look like?
It starts out that there's actually a crane that tries to extract me from my bed. It is I hate, waking up is the hardest part of the day. I just struggle with it, and it is not my forte. I'm not one of those pop up in the morning, it's 5 a.m. and go to the gym, look over here. It doesn't happen that way at all. And then I probably, in a good day and an ideal day, that happens, and then I get to putter around the house I try to leave as much time. And everything from making breakfast or a smoothie, and then checking an email and putting stuff from one side of the loft to the other. And checking the plants, and just really, really kind of puttering around is where I really start my day. And I feel it allows me that personal time, the quiet time that doesn't really carry through the rest of the day. And then I guess I probably am on Facebook way too much, but I have tried to balance that by liking news sources on Facebook. So that way I feel like I at least get some information by staying on the page. Yeah. So the typical ones: Meet the Press, New York Times, Post, local news, SFist, LAist, just to kind of feel like it keeps me informed while also looking at, pictures of what people ate for dinner last night and their dogs. And then, those are kind of my general ones. I really I'm better when I'm busy, and so the bigger the project, the better. And I'm one of those people that nothing gets done if I don't have a lot to do, but everything gets done if I have an insane amount of work to do. I think my drive is better. So when things get slow, somehow, Netflix comes on a little earlier in the day than it should. If I'm working at home by myself, if there's nothing going on. So, but yeah, I try to exercise. I think exercise is a way to kind of relax my brain and calm down. And, it's such a physical job at times. And, I think the exercise helps keep that part really strong. And I think, as we get older, I get more and more freaked out about, illnesses that cause debilitation, like diabetes or, things like that can be really rough. So I try to exercise and eat right and all that good stuff. balance out the excesses of sampling, tasting menus at conferences and that kind of thing.
That's great. So what book is on your Kindle or next to your bed?
So it's such a weird one, but it's actually Wealth of Nations is right
Really?
on my bedstand right now. Neil deGrasse Tyson published this list of the 10 books every intelligent person should read, and they are for really smart people. So it's been there for a while.
So you get to sleep fast when you start reading.
Exactly. It's literally, it's like probably about 3 inches thick and the type's really small. But it's actually really interesting to learn about initial, economic concepts around capitalism and in its inception, and especially what it's come today and how it's been interpreted today. And so I find it really fascinating. There's a lot in there that reminds me of B Corp ideals and that there needs to be equality of the workforce and wages at all levels and not too much on one or the other. It's not. And so it's interesting to kind of see that the basis for this, really there was a responsibility and a care involved with the economy at all different levels. And yet, like most large techs, people kind of pull what they think argues their point. So it's actually really, especially with all that's going on with wealth and economic disparity right now, it's actually really interesting read. And it puts me to sleep well.
Funny. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I know that when I have trouble sleeping, I try to study algebra and then I go right to sleep.
That's a good one.
All right. So what's that? What book do you give other people? Is there a book you give other people? Like you say you have to read this. It can be anything, don't.
Yeah, I mean, other business owners. I hand out that B Corp handbook that Ryan Honeymoon wrote.
I don't know what that is.
So I'll give it to you. Basically, it's this book that outlines kind of what it means to be a benefit corporation and just simple kind of tips that you can. And it's one of those things too, like, oh, are you already doing this? Well, look, you could be a B Corp. And I really believe that the B Corp ideals are the way that business is moving to. And really the way to kind of fundamentally change a lot of our economic structure. So the book I think is really well done and it's very accessible. So
explain to me what a certified benefit corporation is. I mean, what does that mean? I'm sorry.
Absolutely. So it's basically we've gone through a rigorous assessment process, mostly based on how we spend money. So it's really about how a company operates on its bottom line levels. And they look at, so kind of, put your money where your mouth is type of assessment. And they look at all different things in terms of, that the CEO of the company doesn't make exponentially more than the lowest paid employee, that you've got procurement practices in place that support to some degree, and you get points based on the degree of involvement. So if you do it 100% of the time, you get points. If you do it 5% of the time, you get points, but you'll get more points if it's more. It's kind of a really basic way to describe the assessment. But it's really looking at how a company spends money and how to both be profitable and look out for the planet and the people that work for them and support them. And so there's an organization called B Lab, much like Blab that we're on, that performs this certification. You can also incorporate at the state level where your bylaws state that you, most bylaws, naturally your corporate bylaws, if you have a corporation, say that you are working to the benefit only of your shareholders. And so that's a lot of what happens in corporate America today, is that companies are beholden to the profits and benefits of the shareholders, which means that no matter what choices they make to run a better company for the planet, for their staff, whoever, if the shareholders don't profit at a maximum level, shareholders can actually sue the company for making decisions that are better for the world. And what a benefit corporation does in its bylaws actually says that you benefit, you're only beholden to your stakeholders. And a company can actually define its stakeholders. The stakeholders can be shareholders, but they can also be employees. They can be the supply chain. They can be the planet. They can be, really gives a broader definition of who a company's profits need to benefit. And it allows companies the freedom to make choices that may not make them the highest profit year to year or quarter to quarter earnings, but that their staff are happier and that their supply chain has a better impact on the planet. And what they find typically is that those companies end up doing better in the long run anyway, and it kind of removes that quarterly glimpse at corporate levels. I don't know. I think it's a really great system for companies to operate in, and there's a lot of wonderful companies that are really championing this process.
Very cool. And the benefit to you guys is you have a better business. Your clients want to work with you because of the way you have a better business.
Yeah, and it rolls off. It's stuff that, like our on-site staff gets paid well and they're happy to be there, and so that they can provide better service to our attendees and have a clear expectation. We get to do a lot with charity, and charity is one of those things that, I feel like, what you put out comes back tenfold. Mm-hmm. And the community has been amazing. The networking and the people that are in that community are really great, and we've met friends and colleagues and vendors, and our bank is a benefit bank, and they're awesome. They're a bank that's actually owned by a nonprofit. Wow. So all the bank's profits go up to this nonprofit. All the bank's profits go up to the nonprofit, and the nonprofit is their mission is to really benefit the Oakland community and the communities that they serve in. So when you're tired of big, awful banks like Chase or Wells Fargo that have really horrible things that they tend to invest in, there's a couple of great benefit banks that can be a great place to put your money.
How cool! Yes, I just was having my problems with Chase yesterday. Okay, so. What book? Do you listen to podcasts?
I used to be really good at it because I used to listen to them when I swam. I used to have this great little iPod shuffle and this thing that would hook onto the back of my goggles and listen to podcasts while I swam. It was like a really great way to get through the laps. And then I dyed my hair blonde, and I haven't gotten in a pool since because I'm freaked out about it turning green. And I spend way too much money at the salon to risk green hair. So I haven't.
What were you listening to before? Like what kind of?
The Moth, typical things. Moth, Mark Maron, couple of like financial advisement podcasts, and so just kind of your basic storytelling things. I found it more soothing than music, or more not soothing. They would keep my attention longer than music.
To make the time go by, you're not thinking about what you're doing. Yeah, I totally get that. You ever had a nickname?
A couple that I like. I wanted to skip this question.
That's okay. You don't have to answer anything. I just think it's funny because I've had a million nicknames also, and I figured that you had a lot of nicknames too.
Yeah. One I got stuck with that I still get stuck with, and I hate it.
You're not going to say what it is?
No, I'll be walking down like a hall of like a giant Marriott, and somebody will yell it out, and I'll turn around and I'll get stuck. It'll be my show name for a week and a half.
You don't want the show name, yeah. No. Do you listen to music when you work?
I do. I really like the noise and the distraction of it.
What do you listen to? What channel do you listen to? Pandora or Spotify or something?
Yeah, it varies. A lot of times the classical music station here, the radio station, is pretty soothing. If I need something upbeat, I have to say the Missy Elliott Pandora station is the best.
How funny.
I have been known for the impromptu dance party at all hours, including while emailing. So the kind of more upbeat the music is usually usually. So it's like soul, hip hop, that kind of thing. Classical works when you need it, when you need to focus. But
do you have any favorite documentaries or movies that you've seen?
This is going to sound a little funny, but I just watched this great documentary series called High Profits on Netflix, and I highly recommend it to any entrepreneur or business owner. It mainly focuses on this young couple trying to open a pot shop in Breckenridge.
Oh, yeah. I saw that. It was really good.
So good. And it wasn't, I didn't relate to it because of the marijuana thing. It was more because just to see their struggles of them opening up this new business, what they had to face, the permitting, the legalities, the politics. It was fascinating.
Yeah.
How they dealt with that subject.
I watched that, and then we were going on vacation last year, and I needed a book. We were going to be going with my wife's parents. That doesn't matter where we're going. But I was walking by one of those Hudson things at the airport, and there was a big weed leaf on this book, and I was like, I had just watched that show.
Yeah.
And I saw the book, and I grabbed it, and I was leafing through it. And not for the pot thing, really, but it was called, what's the name of it? The Big Weed Business or something. Anyway, it was like fascinating. Same thing. A guy in Colorado who's a total businessman sees this is a emerging market, and I got to find that book but it was again fascinating because he didn't know anything about the weed business, and it's legal. So he sees, this is going to be a moneymaker, and it was the same thing except he was already a business guy who knew. So it was him navigating the whole system and how he wanted to do it. Anyway, fascinating book. I wish I knew the name of it. That would have made it much better if I could have said the name. Big, I think it's called The Big Weed or something, but it was really good. It was just like this High Profits. That's interesting.
Yeah, I just thought from an entrepreneurial standpoint, and from it was just I was riveted. By the talk.
Yeah. I watched that and what they're dealing with the government there and the downtown because it's a family thing. Anyway, that's a good one. People should watch that. It's really fun. Yeah. All right, let's get cracking here because I think we could chat away the whole day. Yeah. What's the best advice you ever received?
What did I answer for this one? Best advice I received. Always send thank you cards. Oh. I feel like my mom always got on this to me, like, when we got birthday gifts or anything like that, Christmas gifts. And I just feel like that genuine touch is a really important thing to always carry through. That kind of caring of what people have done for you is always really important. So I don't always remember to do it, but I think it's really good advice to remember.
Very cool. And what's something that's working for you right now? Do you have a new app or, vitamin, something that you're doing? What's the new thing that you're really liking?
Went and bit the bullet and started using Salesforce IQ, which has this Gmail integration, and it gives you read receipts, which honestly, that is the best feature. Like we don't always use the database that well, but the read receipt feature and being able to kind of see when people are opening your emails from a project manager standpoint is so great. It's
because they saw it, so they yeah. I think I had Sam Smith on recently. Samuel J. Smith, and he's using Sidecar, the HubSpot one, or Sidecar, something like that. Side something, same thing. He says it's changed his whole thing because he sees now he knows when things are being just clicks in his head. What's your favorite industry event and also non-industry event to go to?
I have to say Biz Bash throws a mean party. And I love what they do because they remind you why you're in the events industry. Like, the lighting's good, the food's good, the entertainment's great. And you're like, oh, this is a party I throw. And a lot of times I feel like industry events are a little bit like the carpenter shed. So not all, but a lot of the times
right.
Be a little bit, they're not our best foot forward. And so Biz Bash, I feel like, does a really amazing job at creating great events. For the events industry, non-industry event, I feel like I don't go to events and I don't have to.
Yeah. Well, you never know, like a music festival or something that you love.
Yeah, I don't like crowds. It's
funny. Funny you got into this business.
Yeah, unless I'm working in charge of something. Nope, no interest.
Okay, so the last question: if you could talk to the high school senior you, what would you tell yourself?
I would probably want to tell her that putting your best foot forward is more valued than it sounds. Like, to really kind of be careful and thoughtful with choices, and that, it's like kind of that there's no second chance to make a first impression kind of deal, and to really be responsible with all the opportunities you're given. I think as a young person, I didn't fully grasp that or didn't take advantage of that.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. All right. Johanna, thank you so much. I appreciate you. I'll see you, I guess, in another 9 years. And
Yeah. Have a good decade.
How can people get a hold of you if they want to get a hold of you and Twirl?
Sure. So we have a beautiful website.
It is a very nice website.
It's a very good website for an event planning company, which is twirlmanagement.com. Facebook, not really on Twitter. We also do this great project called Green Venue Report, greenvenuereport.com.
I meant to ask you about that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that before we go.
Sure. It's actually this great project that grew, that's grown and multiplied. And we have a wonderful partnership with a consulting firm called Greenview. And they really are the analytic reporting kings and queens of the universe. So they, and so if you ever need reports or analytics done for your events and your sustainability, they're the place to go.
Ah.
We've been able to get 30 convention centers around the world to participate in this last version, which we just published, and are working towards getting 50 for this next version. And we have a pretty in-depth questionnaire around the sustainability practices of these large centers, and then we create a massive report based on the aggregation of the data. And it's hopefully grows into the one place where there's a true baseline of the environmental impact and best practices for our industry.
Very cool. Very, very cool. All right. Well, I will let you go, Johanna. I know you have a million things to do today, like we all know.
Million.
So thank you again for talking with me. And I look forward to our next meeting. Okay, that was a lot of fun for me. I enjoyed talking to Johanna a lot. She's a great gal, and they do some very cool stuff over there at Twirl Management. And I wanted to thank again our sponsor, IMEX America. I also wanted to thank you very much for tuning in. If you get a chance, head over to iTunes and give us a review if you like the podcast. It really helps us find more people. And if you have any questions or comments, or know of somebody you want me to interview, send over an email to mike@grassshackroad.com, 3 S's in the middle there, or meetingspodcast@gmail.com. So again, I appreciate you, and enjoy the rest of your day or morning or whenever you are time shifted listening to this. So, bye-bye.
We appreciate and thank you for listening to the Meetings Podcast. Please email with any questions or comments to meetingspodcast@gmail.com. Meetings Podcast is sponsored by IMEX America, America's worldwide exhibition for incentive travel, meetings, and events. The Meetings Podcast theme music is brought to you by the Delgado Brothers, which can be found at delgadobrothers.com.